Well, we've got 24 or 25 more buses that came to Chicago over the holiday weekend, and they continue to question as to how exactly this is going to be solved. Welcome back. It's Bishop on Air. Let's talk about the issue of migration. And yesterday, I was able to talk with several politicians that were in line to tackle the primary election, to get on the ballots. But in talking with them, it was clear that some of the issues were top of mind. Ann Williams said her constituents clearly are focused on what's going on with the migrant situation.
Now, I'm from Chicago, so certainly it's addressing the new arrivals that are coming to Chicago, housing and ensuring that their needs are met while sustaining our resources in the city is a big challenge. So that's top of mind on the city level. But in terms of the state, of course, budget is always a top issue. I'm focused on environmental issues as well. So
we'll talk about all of that in the new year. Legislators come back January 16th. But the question of the migrant issue, we've got tens of millions, if not close to $1 billion that taxpayers are going to end up spending. People in Chicago haven't been happy about it, and they've been letting their elected officials know about that. Marcus Evans, a state rep from Chicago, talks about some of what he's hearing from constituents and how to balance those concerns with the need to take care of humans that find themselves in a tight spot.
I think you got to keep the priorities there's normally the priorities high on the list, and we got to figure this thing out. There's an influx of people coming from other countries. We got to figure out how to take care of them. We've always done that in this country. It's not a new thing. Back from Ellis Island to Latinos coming here in the 1960s, to African Americans relocating from the South. It's not a new issue. We got to figure it out and just take care of people. But the biggest problem is take care of the homeless people who are citizens, of course. Take care of folks who are struggling and make them feel good too. And we can do that. We got the resources to do it. We just got to focus and get it done.
Well, I don't know how many resources we've got. We've got a $140 billion unfunded pension liability, tack on another $50+ billion in other post-employment benefits for retired public employees, to the cost just for Chicago pensions, let alone fire and police pensions across the state and individual municipalities. All these costs stacking up, and those costs get diverted when you're having to fund migration and housing and food and health care. Ray Lopez, a Chicago alderman, Democrat, but he says he's more moderate than the far left extremists. He talks about, how to deal with this problem.
I think people understand and love the fact that we are still the country that most people in the world want to come to. But we know that there needs to be limits, there needs to be parameters, and really the federal government has failed in this moment. They have not addressed the issue of the borders, they have not addressed the issue of the migrant asylum seekers, and they have left Chicago taxpayers on the hook, and that will continue to spread, not just in Chicago, not just within the district, but within the entire state, as we are the most welcoming state in the nation. We have to come up with a better solution, because what we see now is unsustainable. What we see is members of Congress on both sides are afraid to address this issue. They've had 4 decades to address immigration, to fix it and make it a workable program, and they have failed ever since Ronald Reagan granted amnesty in 1987. We cannot be afraid to tackle issues simply because it's politically expedient not to. It's failed our country, it's failed our communities, and even if it costs me my next election as a congressman, we will work to fix this once and for all.
So you got different ideas there. How do you address this? Is it being more compassionate and throwing more money at the problem, or is it clamping down on the border and solving it there? Mike Simmons, a Democrat from Chicago, state senator, he shared some of his thoughts on how to approach this.
We're hearing a lot of things. I think people want to see a compassionate and humane approach to resettlement for a lot of our migrants that are coming into the state right now. And we certainly have to make sure that we push our social services, make sure that we push for affordable housing, make sure that we push for all the services that are going to be necessary so that folks can land here humanely, just like so many of us did previously.
And Simmons also asked about the sanctuary status. Should that be changed? Has he heard his constituents talking about changing the city and state's sanctuary status, allowing for migrants to come here, not just getting free health care over a certain age, even though that has now been suspended because of the taxpayer cost being too much to bear. But you've also got the issue of not enforcing federal immigration law, another thing that makes Illinois and Chicago a sanctuary city. So here's Simmons talking about the sentiments that some in the city of Chicago, that polling has shown, want to change the state's and city's sanctuary status.
I think we got to be able to do both. We got to chew and walk gum. We got to take care of people that have been here a long time, and that's certainly a part of fighting for affordable housing, fighting for living wages, fighting so people can join unions and can collectively bargain, making sure that people can pay their rent, making sure they can take care of their kids. But we also got to do that for our new neighbors too, just like so many of us did a few generations ago.
But all of this comes with a cost to the taxpayer, something that State Representative Brad Halbrook is very cognizant of, and says that it's clearly an issue that's going to be brought up at the State House. Why it wasn't brought up during the recent veto session, unclear, and the governor a week afterwards says, hey, we're going to spend $160 million more on this. The governor's got the ability to shift funds around, but the cost is growing.
Well, it should be, and it ought to be. When we come back, that ought to be one of the number one issues is to reinstate invest in kids. I know there's going to be schools and kids and families are going to manage through this for the next several months, but it needs to be brought back and move forward and get it done.
But the buses keep on coming. Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday took part in a fireside chat with Crane's Chicago Business, and he shared some of this when talking about the migrant issue and the buses that do indeed keep on coming.
But looking at that situation, there came a point where, you're close enough to the very cold weather that we just had to, step in and try to step up the effort. The city's done a good job of trying to manage an unmanageable influx. You don't know when the buses are arriving. Nobody from Texas is calling Illinois to say, folks are arriving on this date at this time. Also, the buses that are being sent often are being sent not to the location that we're asking that they be sent to, right? But instead just dropped in front of the Willis, do we call it the Willis Tower anymore?
Sure.
Sears Tower, Willis Tower, that big tower. But just that's not a location that we've asked for anybody to be dropped off at. We've had lots of communication with folks in Texas to try to say, okay, everybody, there's a big wide country out there. Why are you focusing it all on, New York, Chicago, Denver, Washington, D.C.?
Pritzker went on to talk about how it's winter and these migrants really shouldn't be coming here. So we'll be tracking all of that, of course, as the cost continues to compound for taxpayers. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you want to support the show, you can grab some merchandise to make that happen.